Edward Lear, born in Holloway, England, is chiefly remembered for his nonsensical poetry and limericks. He assumed various roles of illustrator, landscape painter, poet, travel writer, and composer during his lifetime. He achieved fame with the publication of his volume of painting, Illustrations of the Family of Psittacidae, or Parrots. However, due to failing eyesight, Lear became a landscape painter. Around this time, he published a volume of nonsense verse, a book of nonsense, dedicated to the children of his patron, the Earl of Derby. His other writings on nonsense verse include nonsense songs, stories, botany and alphabets, more nonsense, pictures, rhymes, botany, etc., and laughable lyrics. He also musically adapted a few of Lord Alfred Tennyson's poems. Tennyson, in return, penned a poem for Edward Lear, which was inscribed on Lear's tombstone. The poem The Duck and the Kangaroo is from his collection Lear's Nonsense Drolleries, The Owl and the Pussy-Cat, and The Duck and the Kangaroo. It is a humorous account of a conversation between the duck and the kangaroo. Through this conversation, the poem explores the themes of exploration, friendship, and adventure. Here is the summary of the poem, The Duck and the Kangaroo by Edward Lear. The Duck and the Kangaroo by Edward Lear is a nonsense poem. A nonsense poem is a poem composed of comical words intended to create a humorous effect. In the poem, the duck admires the kangaroo's ability to hop over fields and water without stopping. The duck considers his life in the pond boring and longs to experience the world beyond the pond. In short, he wishes he could hop like the kangaroo and see the world. So, the duck asks the kangaroo for a ride on his back. The duck promises to keep quiet and say nothing except quack for the whole day. He hopes they will travel to Dee and Jelly-Bo-Lee, as well as over the land and sea. Dee and Jelly-Bo-Lee are words made up by the author to achieve a comic effect in the poem. The kangaroo in return says that he needs to think about the duck's request. Overall, he thinks that the duck will bring him good luck. But he has one objection. He thinks that the duck's webbed feet are wet and cold and will probably give him rheumatism, that is, joint pain. The poet has shortened the word rheumatism to rheumatiz for two reasons. One, to provide humor in the poem, and second, to maintain the rhyme scheme. The duck replies by saying that he has already thought of this problem. The duck has bought 4 pairs of worsted socks that fit his feet perfectly. Worsted is a fine, smooth yarn of wool. He has also bought a cloak for the cold and a few cigars. He has bought all these goods in order to follow his love for the kangaroo. Finally, the kangaroo says that he's ready. The night is filled with the dim light of the moon, and 2 friends are ready to start their journey. The kangaroo instructs the duck to sit quietly at the end of his tail so he can balance himself while hopping. And thus the duck and the kangaroo were off with a hop and a bound. They hopped across the world and saw it 3 times. The duck and the kangaroo were the happiest of creatures in all the world. Now, let's take a look at the literary elements of the poem, The Duck and the Kangaroo. The poem contains many instances of alliteration. Some of the examples are good, gracious, how you hop, sit quite still, and but to balance. By using these phrases, the poet adds a musical note to the poem. A refrain is a sentence that is repeated at regular intervals in the poem. It is used to create rhythm as well as emphasize on a certain point in the poem. The lines "said the duck to the kangaroo" and "said the kangaroo to the duck" are repeated in the poem. By repeating these lines, the poem is focusing on the conversation between the duck and the kangaroo. It is a poetic technique where a line in the poem continues over to the next line without any punctuation. In the poem, the line, "and would probably give me the rheumatiz," said the kangaroo, is an example of enjambment. The word rheumatiz is continued in the next line in order to fit into the rhyme scheme of the poem. Said the kangaroo to the duck. This requires some little reflection. Perhaps on the whole it might bring me luck, and there seems but one objection, which is, if you let me speak so bold, your feet are unpleasantly wet and cold, and would probably give me the rheumatiz, said the kangaroo. In this stanza, the word duck and luck, reflection and objection, bold and cold, and rheu and kangaroo rhyme. Let's assign labels to each rhyming pair. A for duck and luck, B for reflection and objection, and so on. Thus, the rhyme scheme is AB, AB, CC, DD. All stanzas except the second one follow this rhyme scheme. The rhyme scheme of the second stanza is AB, AB, CC, BB.